Hey there, Hopeful Tribe. Are you curious about your parenting skills? Well, take our Am I a Good Parent quiz and discover where you stand.
Number 1, you're engrossed in your favorite TV show when you hear commotion downstairs. It's your kids arguing again. Do you?
A. Crank up the volume and hope they work it out themselves. B. Head downstairs, calmly mediate, and guide them through resolving their conflict. C. Yell at them to stop.
Number 2, your child refuses to touch anything green on their plate, opting for carbs and sugary treats. Do you?
A. Give them a vitamin and move on. B. Explain the importance of a balanced diet. C. Raise your voice to get them to comply.
Number 3, your partner disagrees with your lenient approach to disciplining your child. Do you?
A. Advocate for your child. B. Support your partner's stance. C. Resort to shouting at both of them.
Number 4, your child's school report shows lower grades. Do you?
A. Lecture them on the consequences of low grades. B. Empathize that exams don't define their worth. C. Storm into the school and confront their teacher.
Number 5, your child confides in you about being bullied. Do you?
A. Encourage them to stand up for themselves. B. Advise them to endure, knowing bullies often lose interest. C. Tell them to confront the bully.
Number 6, you've splurged on a family vacation, but your kids aren't enjoying it. Do you?
A. Brush it off as typical kid behavior. B. Make extra efforts to ensure they have a good time. C. Blame everyone, including your partner and the resort staff.
Number 7, it's Christmas morning and your kids are disappointed with their gifts. Do you?
A. Offer to exchange presents after the holidays. B. Remind them of the true spirit of Christmas. C. React angrily and let the tensions escalate.
Results: mostly A's. You might need to reassess your parenting approach. Mostly B's. There's room for improvement. Mostly C's. It's time to rethink your parenting strategies. I like the assessment of the results the best because it's just like real life. Like no matter what you do as a parent, you're wrong. Right? There's no right answers. I like that. I think the first one was one of my favorites because, when you hear your kids arguing, right? It's not like it's the first time. The first time, of course, you're going to drop everything and try to mediate and all of that, right? But it's probably the umpteenth time that they've fought, and maybe you just don't feel like getting up, and maybe you're really in a good show. And so, yeah, I love that one because I have been known to let siblings work things out as long as there's no blood,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
And then crank up the volume, just keep it moving.
And I think, of course, the second answer is probably the correct one where you go and mediate and all of that. But I think there's a combination of A and B that's better. Like, mostly let your kids work things out for themselves. And then when you feel like they need help, go ahead and step in.
Maybe there. I even think there's room for all of them. Is there not any room for hey, stop?
Yeah.
It seems like as parents, you might try a combination of all of them.
Yeah.
Especially depending on how many times that the arguments have happened.
Right. How many times do you want to mediate the same fight?
Yeah.
Right? It's
yeah.
like, wow, okay. So here we go again. Yeah. Then this always really cracks me up, the question about the food, right? And it's usually about very young children who can't go to the store by themselves, right? Like, how do you end up with this problem where you can't control what the child's eating? Because they can't go to the store by themselves, they don't have jobs, right? And so, how do they opt for only carbs and sugar a choice?
Well, I think the thing is, probably the way that parents get in this situation is that they get afraid that their kids won't eat. right? And so they try something that's maybe new to the kid, and then the kid won't eat it, and they're like, so they like try to bribe them with other things that might be more tempting, and we all know that carbs and sugar are more tempting, and once the kid has had a taste of that, it's over.
Oh yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. It's bad. But the thing is, most kids aren't going to starve themselves. So if you just only offer healthy things, they're probably going to eat, They'll
only know that those healthy things exist for a long time, really.
Right.
They'll know because their world is small, like you said. They can't drive and go to the store and get it.
Yeah. Tim and Ben, they were so funny. When they were young, I was a real purist about food, and their idea of dessert was a sweet potato. Like, they were like, wow, we're going to have sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
That was like the big treat, a sweet potato or a roasted beet. Like, wow, that's a lot of sugar. So, yeah.
When I was young, my ex and I, we nannied for these two little kids. And one of the kids, unfortunately, passed away. But what happened, the reason I'm telling this story is the parents were such purists about the kids' diet, wanted them to eat only healthy foods. But we decided we wanted to take them to McDonald's one day. So we did. And after the kid passed away, the mom was so happy when we shared with her, like, he got to eat McDonald's. We took him there one day. Oh. Yeah, he loved it too. Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, so, the partner, this is so common. I've met, I don't know how many thousands of parents at this point, but so many parents tend to sort of be polar opposites in their parenting approaches. So there's the lenient parent and the too strict parent, and they're just at battle all the time,
Yeah. So it's almost like there's no right or wrong answer for this. It was advocate for your child, support your partner's stance, or resort to shouting at both of them. I think actually all of them are wrong answers in a way, even though, you feel like you want to advocate for your child. But really, the discussion needs to happen between you and your partner. Like, how are we parenting this kid? And it doesn't matter what you guys agree to. Maybe you agree to the person who's a step parent, they're totally hands off and it's all up to you. Well, if you guys agree to that, you guys agree to that. Or if you agree to, we're going to co-parent and this is the parenting style that we can agree on and adopt, then you need to agree on that, right? So it's different than, the whole disagreement, that's actually between the adults, and you guys need to get on the same page. Yeah. And then there's space for supporting your partner's stance, or maybe there's never space for shouting at both of them. Okay, right. So not all of them are right. And then maybe there's space for even advocating for your child, right? Like maybe your child's needing some need met, and even though you're both parenting in the same style, you can understand your kid's point of view. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really important if you're co-parenting to get on the same page, because nothing's going to change until you do. And it doesn't have to be, all one person's way or all the other person's way. There's room to compromise, Mm-hmm. And I worked with a family recently whose child was tantruming every night, big, long 30, 60-minute tantrums, right? And the first thing I did was to make sure they were on the same page, which of course they weren't. They were, the typical extreme lenient and too strict. And so anyway, as soon as they got on the same page, the tantrums stopped. Mm. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. It works every time. This one about the child's report card showing lower grades cracked me up, because we were just talking about how when I was growing up, my mom would threaten us if we didn't get good grades, we'd end up garbage men, And a friend of mine was saying recently that his parents said if he didn't do well in school, he'd end up cleaning other people's toilets.
Yeah.
So those are some of the parental reactions I've heard of.
Yeah, and I joked back with the about the garbage person and saying like, my parents never would have said anything like that because they'd be like, "Hey, city job, you get good pay, it's fine." They wouldn't.
Good retirement.
Good retirement. Yep. So they wouldn't kind of threaten you with "you'll wind up as this."
And the emphasize that exams don't define their worth. That would have never been spoken in my house. Like,
yeah,
it was actually all about that defining our worth was our grades and our other, awards and
stuff. Yeah. So it just depends on like the parenting style, but actually, so the choice A was lecture them on the consequences of low grades. They already know the consequences of low grades. I think no lecture and shaming is going to fix anything. I'd say maybe get them a tutor if they need it, and emphasize that exams don't define their worth. Well, that I would do that only if they were very ashamed of their grades. If they're not necessarily ashamed of the grades and concerned that it's defining their worth, I wouldn't even bother with that one. Unless they're feeling poorly about it, I would check in with them. I think I would just kind of give them, get them. I don't understand why get them a tutor isn't on there.
Yeah, that could be helpful.
Yeah.
And the bullying thing. What would you do?
I'm not even sure. Did you ever experience that with your kids?
Oh, yeah. So Sammy, my youngest, got bullied a lot. The 1 year he went to a public school, he was bullied pretty much every day. And in fact, it was so bad. One of the bullies' moms called me and was like, "I'm so sorry. My son seems to be bullying your son in school, and I just wanted to apologize and see if we could get together," because she felt so bad about it. I think that what I did was try to use the existing community to support him there, since I was working and I couldn't just pull him out, So that mom whose son was bullying Sam knew some of the other moms of the kids who were bullying Sam, and we just tried to get them together in small groups and make peace. Like, that was what we did. And also Sammy had a guardian angel, oh my God, who she's a really tall girl. She's probably twice Sammy's size, right? And Sam, he's shorter, on the shorter side, but when he was like 7, I guess he was really tiny. And she used to stand up for him whenever he got bullied. She would like stand in the way and not let people mess with him. So I just kind of used the existing community to help support him when I couldn't be there.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is an interesting one for me because I know that it's often you encourage the kid to stand up for themselves. They're going to need those skills later on, but I think without doing that with support, it can go wrong. But often, if you do stand up to a bully will back down because a bully is just like the exact flip side of like a coward, really. So once they're stood up to, they will back down. But I think with some guardrails in place, right? Like maybe have like a conversation with the parent and see if you can have a conversation with your kid and their kid together, like kind of talking through what the issues are, and see if you guys can all get on the same page about what this is about. Sometimes that might backfire too, like in movies, it always does. But actually in real life, I find that it doesn't. Usually parents aren't wanting their kids to be bullies or, assuming that, you're saying something bad about their kid. Sometimes they're shocked to find out that their kids are bullies, and, wanting them to kind of be more socially adjusted. So I think I would encourage the kid to stand up for themselves. I wouldn't have them do it on their own. That can backfire. But I would kind of help them advocate for themselves with the other parent and the kid as best I could. Yeah. So.
And I think the other thing that's important to say about this is now a lot of school districts have these no violence rules. So if you're going to advocate for your child standing up for themselves, you could be leading them into a path of being expelled because even if they're just defending themselves now, they can get expelled as well as the bully. So
yeah. So I think there's a difference between A and C, though. So tell them to confront the bully. That's more of the stuff that could get you in trouble. But standing up for yourself could be a conversation. It isn't necessarily like starting another fight. It's a conversation. And if they try to have that conversation with the bully on their own, that's the part that can backfire. So that's why we get the parents involved. But you're right. I mean, really good point that, if you can't go tell your kid to just go fight back, because they're both going to get expelled.
This is different than when we were growing up. You could do that. You could get into a fight at school when we were kids and everybody just go home, right? But now it's a whole different thing.
You'd get suspended. You wouldn't get expelled. But actually, in my school, even if it was off school grounds, you still would get suspended if they found out about it. Yeah,
wow.
They found out about it.
Wow. What was I going to say too? Oh, the other thing I did when Sammy was getting bullied, besides use the community, was I actually got a group of people together to start our own school. So
that's right.
I just think, bullying is just kind of part of most public school environments, and just because there's not enough staff to oversee what kids are doing all the time. There's just not. And, kids are dealing with stuff and, they act out. And
some of it's subtle. You say there's not enough staff too, but like some of the bullying, it's subtle. It's done out of the line of vision of the staff on purpose, right? So, it's tough to monitor.
Yeah. What are we going to talk about next?
Splurge?
Oh, yeah, the family vacation. Oh, my God. That triggered me so much. I think the reason it triggered me so much is because I was kind of a spoiled kid. Like, we got to travel a lot when I was a kid, and I'm sure that I wasn't very appreciative. And so I remember being this kind of whiny, like, do we have to go see one more cathedral? Like, my mom would have, like, taken all this time and money to take us all over Europe, and I'd be like, oh, why do we have to go? So yeah, it's kind of the privileged kids problem, right?
I disagree. So this is the one where you splurge on family vacation and the kids aren't enjoying it. I disagree. That's a privileged kids problem. So yeah, when I was a kid, we didn't travel much, right? But then when we did, sometimes I was finding things that were like, I wasn't enjoying, but it was really just because I'm out of my comfort zone now, right? And so I think that actually happens with kids sometimes. They're just out of their comfort zone and they're complaining about it. But often later on, always for me, later on, I would enjoy it. I would like come back from it and go like, oh man, that was really good. And I remember those trips fondly now. But just like, you're in a different environment and I'm in a hotel, and I remember like, well, my parents weren't like maybe affording like the most expensive places, right? So like, oh, the blankets are itchy, or this isn't like home, right? So I remember complaining and them just being like, just so it's kind of discouraged with me that I was so, upset about the trip. And then later when I became a teacher and took kids on trips, one of the parents was really like saying, well, I've known kids who went on school trips and they just later on, they came back saying that it wasn't that fun. And I remember telling that parent that about taking trips. And maybe at the time, I said that I didn't like it, but later remembered it fondly. And sure enough, my students, all of them like low-income students, it's like they were just like, everything was too different. And why are we here? And why is this, we were actually staying in decent hotels and that. They were like, they were really kind of like afraid of being out of their comfort zone. But later, run into them. They had a good time. So I don't think it is the rich kids issue. I think it's take a kid out of their natural environment sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What about the Christmas one?
Oh, yeah. They're just pointing their gifts. Exchange them after the holidays. Say, okay, this is, I mean, it could be a thing like this is what you could afford. Right? But yeah, you can have something for exactly that price. We're going to exchange it after the holidays. Why not? Why remind them of the true spirit of Christmas? That just seems like punitive and weird and whatever. You're actually messing up the spirit of Christmas by doing that. And definitely don't react angrily and like let tensions escalate. So yeah, I think that actually is a good answer for that. Just like kind of exchange them after the holidays.
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, I think like Yeah, I don't have a problem with exchanging presents. My mom made it really simple because she would let us pick what we wanted out of the Sears catalog. So she knew we wanted all the things that she bought.
Smart. Let them pick their own gifts. That's even better, right? Then you know you got them the good stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And one of the ways I did likewise with my youngest was I used to ask him to send me links for his birthday and Christmas of the things he wanted, because my other kids could just keep an Amazon wish list, but he likes really unusual things from foreign countries, so I would need links so that I could find the things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's good to ask your kids what they want, then they always get what they want.
Smart.
Not that it's not fun to surprise people too, but
Yeah. I guess that's like very old school, list to Santa or whatever, Yeah, it's good. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just to sum up like my point of view on being a good parent, I don't know if it came through in discussion of the questions, but I think if you're supporting them in a way that they know that you care about them, just they have to be a good parent, they just have to know that you care about them, and you can kind of get a lot of traction with that in a good relationship with your kid, but it's not enough to have sort of a complete, full relationship, nor is it enough for your kid to be able to be successful, just them really knowing that you care about them. So this all comes from like my dissertation research, really, because I wasn't a parent, but the idea of supporting their competence. So you're sort of supporting them and getting good at things and feeling like they have like a lot of value and worth to bring to the activities that they enjoy, and they know that you care about them, so therefore you care about their results in that area. They know that you're on their side and have their back. Also supporting their autonomy, right? So they're able to make decisions and choices on their own. You provide those sorts of opportunities throughout their life, and yeah, that's what a good parent does. Those three things. Supports those three psychological needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Not only good is a weird label, right? But we started with it. But I mean, like an effective parent, if you're supporting those three things in your kids, they'll go a long way and you guys will have a good relationship. What do you think?
I think also it's really important that as parents we make conscious choices about our parenting and not just kind of parent by default, which is usually doing what our parents did or doing the opposite of what our parents did, and neither one's going to work. I think that to be a responsible parent means really thinking about what kind of parent I want to be, and making clear choices about that, and then making sure my parenting actions are aligned with those choices that I've made, and I even have parents create like their own mission, vision statements and everything so that they know where they're trying to go with their kids, and then if you're not able to make choices that are consistent with your values or your mission and vision as a parent, then I think it's time to get some kind of help, like either friends, families, counselors, YouTube coaches, whoever you can find that might help. Right. Because there's usually something that needs to get worked out. Like maybe you're reenacting old childhood traumas. Maybe you're not getting enough support, which is, I think, true for a lot of American parents today. They're just working so much and they don't have near enough support. So those are some things. Also, I really think the parents I've most admired over the years are parents who really involve their kids in a lot of parental decisions. I'm not saying ask your 18-month-old if they can cross the street by themselves, right? I'm saying like on things beyond safety, there's a lot of choices that you can make collaboratively with your kids, and that's just going to make it so much easier to get them to cooperate because they'll already be bought into whatever the rules are, so I'm really a big fan of those kind of parenting styles.
Nice.
We hope you feel loved and hopeful until we see you again.
Bye-bye.